Part 2, digestive, begins now. Oh, look, what is it? It's a pancreas.
Lisa has all the page.
You do, it's okay. These are the acini. Remind us, what do they produce? Yes, digestive enzymes. That was the alternate part of the pancreas last time we did pancreas, but now it's the main part. And this is the part of the pancreas that was referred to as the exocrine portion, because these enzymes travel through these little baby tubes that all lead to ducts. So I'm not going to say the name of that duct because I don't know, but maybe it could be the accessory pancreatic duct or some other duct. I don't know. What we did when we did cover this the first time, though, we focused on this. This thing was called, and it made, bless you.
Thank you.
Yes, insulin and glucagon. And that was the endocrine portion of the gland, which secreted into the blood, or we could say male baby capillaries. And so that's it for the pancreas. If you want to get that, you may.
The acini is like the little.
Yeah.
So they will go to that duct.
Yes, so then watch, it would go. It would work its way through on the outside, the backside of all those. Yeah, it's kind of neat. Here's the small intestine generically. Not much testable on this. A little bit, not much. Notice the lumen. They're also reminding us, even though I didn't label it, serosa, longitudinal and circular muscular layers, submucosa. They didn't label it because I'm not going to use this picture for that anyway, but I wanted to say it for you to remind you. All these have layers. So then this here is the mucosa with its folds. And we learned the stomach has a name for its folds, and we learned the small intestine with these nice little ridges have a name. Do you remember what I called them? Plicae circularis. And they were called that for about 100 years before the publisher said, circular folds. So if you want, you can call it circular folds. But on the lecture test, you might see this. Okay. And it's pretty neat because look how it comes in and it makes ridges in there. So what they've done is they've zoomed it out here so we can see that each of these folds get these little tiny, looks like a little tip right there. And each of these looks like it pushes, so it's like little fingers pushing up. So on the ridge, it's got thousands of little finger-like structures. And they're all independent, not connected, and they could do this. They could separate from each other, okay? That means they have an amazing surface area. Surface area is contact area with the outside world. And if your small intestine were just a garden hose and didn't have any folds, you couldn't absorb as many nutrients. Because of all the folds, it's got the ridges, and it's got the little fingers, and then on the little fingers it has folds. I'm going to show you that in the next picture. Because it's got 3 different kinds of folds or ridges or whatever we want to call them. The surface area from, if it were just a garden hose, it's got about 2,000 times more surface area. Let me say that in a different way that makes it kind of crazy. Your small intestine, they give estimates on how long it is. Let's just say it was 15 feet long. If it was a straight tube with no folds, it would have to be 30,000 feet long for you to be able to absorb enough nutrients. So you want a tube in you that's 15 feet or 30,000 feet? You think your guts feel cramped now? Imagine 30,000 feet of tubes. No, thank you. So very important, okay? These plicae are the first level, the big folds. The next smaller are the finger-like, right? These are kind of like a finger, and they are called villi. That is V-I-L-L-I. Some places you might see villus. Each one is called a villus. You guys should know by now. I don't care if you use singular or plural. That's totally up to you. Okay. On the next page, and I just want you to have it here. I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'm going to show you that all along the villus, it can't even, I'm doing it so little it can't even pick up what I'm doing. That the tip of all that is folded, okay? And those folded tips are called microvilli. I wanted it to be blue, it changed on me again. We don't see them. Don't worry, I'll show them to you on the next page. But I just wanted you to know. 1, 2, 3 major folds or adaptations that increase surface area. Plicae, villi, and microvilli. The next page will show us the microvilli. So here is a picture of multiple villi. So I'll show you this one. There, little finger. There's 3 others right beside it, and they could be separated, okay? Now what I want you to understand is down the center of each one of them, there is, now we're back to lymphatic. There's a green tube, it's lymphatic. It's called a lacteal. They have labeled it over here in this cut one, right here. So down the center of this villus, that is a lacteal. Lacteals are very important structures. Beside it, you see regular blood vessels with capillaries. That's capillary beds. Lacteals are very special lymphatic capillaries. And they serve one major purpose. Quite a few minor ones, but their major purpose is to absorb fat. Remember how I mentioned to you that fat likes to stick together? Well, even when you emulsify it, fat's big. Fat's big. It just is. And the reality is that most fats are too big to get into a capillary. Capillary is just too small. Fat can't get in it. So the body created this lymphatic network, and it has cool little flap valves, and the big fat molecules just move right in. So the only way that we absorb, or the way that we absorb enough fat to be alive and to do everything we need, is with lymphatics. So it is our #1 mechanism for absorbing fats. Pretty cool. Okay, back to the other stuff here. Just note, you see a goblet cell. We're going to see we're going to see better pictures of goblet cells, but they're there. Remind me what they make. Mucus. Now, the next thing is this. Here's a basement membrane, and here's a free surface, which we could also say lumen, right? So those cells, watch how I use this now, the thin one. What shape is that? What shape would you call little tall cells?
Columnar.
Columnar. So what we've just learned is that all the lining of the whole small intestine is this. One layer. Column-shaped cells. By the way, that epithelium actually starts in your stomach and goes all the way to the rectum. So you have one layer of column-shaped cells after you get past the esophagus all the way to the end, basically. And at the very end, it's stratified just like it is at the beginning in the oral cavity. Together. So the next thing to think of, the nutrients have to go across this to get into the blood. So the cells are pretty important. That's why they call them absorptive cells, but I will not use that language with you on the test. You won't see that. I want you to know the epithelial name. All right. So here's where we want to go next. Right here would be like looking right here. Column-shaped cells. There they are. One layer, columns. But look at the tip. It's highly folded. That would be the microvilli. They are just the tips of the column-shaped cells. So if now you'll be able to see it. That's what it would really look like. But not just there. Here too. And here too. Everywhere. Right? Every little cell that's sticking out has a little furry tip like that. It's a fold to increase surface area so more nutrients can get in there. The more little spaces you have for contact, the more place for water to move in, for salt to move in, for sugar to move in. So anytime you increase the surface area, you're increasing power of absorption, which is great, So on the other picture, we really saw the plicae and the villi. Here we see the villi and the microvilli. So it's picture ready for you. Notice there's a lot on this you won't be asked. Okay, I didn't just forget. It's not going to be there. Now this picture I love. I wish I could say I took it. I didn't. The publisher did. Okay. Here is the lacteal. So that means the other things there, that's partially lacteal and partially cells of the capillaries you're seeing there. Here is our little basement membrane going around. And out here is the free surface where, watch this, see how it's dark? Tell me what those are. Very good, those are microvilli all the way around on the outside of all that. So you see them really good right here. Those microvilli. Those microvilli. I'll go ahead and even label it there. Now they're so small, I wouldn't point to that on the test and ask you. Okay, I have a better picture for that. The next picture. But I might ask, what is this whole thing? That whole thing is a villus, right? Is a villus. And I might ask what tissue that is. Last name? Nice. Nice. That was so nice, I'll spell it for you. Okay. Look, a few little goblets. A little hollow guys. Next picture's got the best goblet cells ever. I mean, the ones for respiratory last time were good. But I think the next one, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. So notice how this villus is separate from the other ones beside it, so that nutrients can come down in here, but the nutrients are going to be so small. Now your brain's starting to go, wow, if that's a microvilli fold and nutrients are smaller than that, how small are they? My goodness, when we digest, we make things tiny in the body, very tiny. What intestine is this? That's a great question. Remember, the small intestine is the only one that has villi. No others. Okay? Not in the stomach, not in the large. Only the small. Only the small. So anytime you see a villus, has to be small intestine. So you might want another picture with small intestine up there, just in case. Okay. So Pearson took that picture, and then we got a good slide in our lab and came in here and got this picture. So here, exactly, basement membrane. And if you look carefully, look here. Boy, that pen, it won't write. It's thinking. So what are those? Microvilli. There's our little microvilli. Here, I love this goblet. That's a goblet cell. So just decided I'll write this G. That's a bad G. Let's rewrite it. There we go. Promised you last time I got gross and said, you'd see mucus, but it doesn't look bad. There it is. So it doesn't look bad. You can even, this is what I like too, look how clear those nuclei are. Nice single layer, pretty much. But look, you can even see the line between some of the cells. So that's just, we got really lucky when we had that under the microscope and it showed up like that. So tell me what tissue type you're looking at. Well, that looks funny. Yep. Tell me what organ this is from. Very good. And anything else? I'll just write it. What am I going to write there? Nice. On this picture, where would the lacteal be? Great question. Because remember, these go, those column-shaped cells go around the whole villus, right? So the villus would actually be pointing up like this, and they go up and over. So I could take the yellow over here. Let me get the yellow again. We go yellow. Watch this. We'll go like that. So the lacteal would be there. And then if we're being really weird, I'm going. Oh, go way over there. And then go off the board. So that didn't really help. So, yep, that's that one. That one likes to show up on the test. Mm-hmm. Ooh, we get to do the liver, the large intestine, and the mesentery, and we're done. Liver, large intestine, and mesentery, and we're done. That's a good picture, but this is a better picture. So there's our big liver. Now, it's amazing that you can look inside the body under a microscope and see this much organization. The liver is so organized. It is organized into little tiny structures that are shaped like stop signs. What's that stop sign shape called? Yeah, it's six-sided, so it'd be a hexagon if it were two-dimensional, right? There's a little hexagon. There's a little mountain. So those things are called lobules because they're tiny lobes. The liver has big lobes, and these are the little parts within the lobes, so they're called lobules. In the center of every lobule is a hole, but it's not just a hole, it's not just a lumen, it's an actual blood vessel. So they named it, because it's in the center of each one of these, and they know it's a vein, they named it the central vein. So you can see what we're doing. We're learning the histology, the names for the parts of the histology of the liver. Remember in the heart between the two ventricles, there was a piece of muscle? Remember in your nose, you can pierce right here? What do we call those things? Septum. So look here. This is a septum. Now in the liver, that septum happens to be made of connective tissue. So they actually, sometimes the name they give it is connective tissue septum. So that's what that is. That's a connective tissue septum. It separates one lobule from the next lobule. And there's actually tubes running through there that are held together, and it gives them a space to be and holds them in place and so forth. But we just say it's a divider, nice and simply put. And the next thing is flashback to endocrine. When we did endocrine, we learned that almost every gland is the same kind of tissue. Cuboidal epithelium. So if we were to zoom up far enough, we would see that those cells, all of these, are little cuboidal cells. Therefore, if you're asked the tissue type, it's cuboidal epithelium. But the cells also have a name. It's the fancy way to say liver cell. Hepatocytes. Hepatitis is inflammation of the liver or some liver diseases. And hepatocytes are liver cells. By the way, just so your brain can cramp, when I learned the liver the first time in like 1990, my professor told me the liver has 500 functions. That's embarrassingly crazy to think of 33 years ago. How many functions do you think it has now? 5,002, just kidding. A lot. In lecture, I think I give you guys 7 functions on the videos, total, of all the time that I've talked about the liver. So here, keep in mind, we know the liver makes what green chemical? Bile. And very important to also understand, the liver filters your blood. Not in the same way as the kidney, but it is a filter. And it also detoxifies the blood, okay? It helps to regulate blood sugar. It holds your sugars, and then it can release them. I mean, it can do so many things. It makes plasma proteins. I mean, it does so much, but it's a very important organ, okay? I just wanted to remind you of that part of it. So there's your liver slide picture. Okay, this will absolutely not be on the test. It is just to help you with lecture, to understand and to absorb what we just saw by saying, oh, obviously cuboidal cells. Now you can see they're cuboidal. And also, look here. Hexagon, they just took a chunk out and put it there. There's your hexagon. So what is this thing in the center? Central vein. And this also shows us that these hepatocytes, it's not just single layer there, these lobules are thick and they form like a sheet or a plate of hepatocytes. So now let me give you something that's very important in A&P that, remember this lecture, this will not be on the lab. Blood goes up from the bottom of the liver through the liver. Okay, we're used to things coming from the top down. But when blood goes through the liver to get filtered, it's going through the veins, it's going back to the heart. So it goes up and into a vein called the hepatic portal vein. See, that's what goes into the bottom of the liver. And I know there's a question on the lecture test that mentions this. Okay, it doesn't, not everybody gets it, but some do. And then I'm using this one lobule to represent all the liver. And after it leaves the liver and it's going back to the heart, you know, going to the inferior vena cava, it goes through veins called hepatic veins on its way out, up and out, right? Up and out of the liver. So it's going to the heart, right? Back to the heart. So this perspective is really something you should get from A&P, is that the veins that leave your guts, they want to filter before they send that blood to the heart, right? So let's think about this. You're absorbing all your nutrients into your guts, into the blood, and those nutrients get into the veins, and they want to get filtered before they go circulating through the whole body. So we send them up through the liver, we detoxify them, we clean them up a little bit, and then we send them to circulate. The other cool thing, look what they're saying. I don't know if you can read the little fine print. Oh, because they give you the other name. Those are macrophages. Kupffer cells are macrophages that spend their whole life in the liver. See, we have various populations of macrophages that live in one location. In AMP1, Langerhans cells live in the skin. Maybe they're dendritic cells, but close enough. Microglia live in the brain. The ones we saw last time in the lungs, I may or may not have told you, they're called dust cells. The ones that live in the liver are called Kupffer cells. So we have populations of macrophages. We have some that roam everywhere, but we have others that go to an organ and just stay there. They move through the organ and keep it clean and healthy for a long time, Okay. Also, so blood's going up, bile's going the opposite way. Look here. Bile goes this way and down and finds its way down. So no big deal there. I don't think that's difficult to understand, because you know that bile leaves the bottom of the liver already. But those same hepatocytes that are fighting infections and doing all that, they're also making bile. They're doing 500 things. Those cells are busy. It's a lot of metabolism. So you may want that picture, and I may need to put the word lecture only, right? LEC only. So that you can have it, but not feel like you have to try to memorize all that. 500 functions of the liver. I was really hoping for a better number than that.
More than.
Yeah, more. Okay. Oh, so that's the liver. We made it back. Now you know we're approaching the end. So the first thing I'll do, I'm gonna do it different with y'all. I'm gonna do the details and then we'll go back and label it again, okay? So the details. That's great, right there. What would be a great name for this membrane where blood vessels and nerves and lymphatics run through? Did you say a word? Watch. You said something before portal? I swear I heard this. Watch the arrow. Say it as soon as you see it. Mesentery. So they're calling that the superior mesenteric artery because this membrane is a mesentery. Okay. And by the way, when you spell mesentery, let me make it easy for you so you don't even have to think. Every vowel is an E. mesentery. Mesentery. It's all E's. It's all E's. Now, truth be told, nowhere on here do they have a label that says mesentery. But I do want you guys to know that. Okay. I'm going to zoom it back up to show you now the top. You know what? It's not going to work. Never mind. I have to go in my normal order because there's too many facts that depend on you knowing the parts. So let's do the overview one more time, where all I'm going to do is give you the organs or the regions of the digestive tube itself. Remind me, what's that one? I know you can't read it, it's too little. Cecum. That's the cecum. So then we're going to put, I can't use yellow because I can't write with it, so I'll just do this. That's the cecum, number 1. Number 2, it travels this way. They chose to label it right here. So what I'll do, instead of writing it, once we put the numbers on here, you're going to get a picture, and then you can zoom and read it real great. Okay? That's ascending colon, number 2. Next, it goes this way. What do we call it when it crosses? Transverse. Transverse, number 3. And always colon, right? Cecum, though, crazily doesn't have colon after it. It's just cecum. Cecum, then ascending colon. Transverse colon. Now it goes down. What are we going to call that? Descending colon. That's 4. Then we do the S curve here. Sigmoid. That's 5. Now this is better. Look, it shows a difference between the rectum and anal canal better. Rectum is 6, anal canal is 7. So there's your first picture so that you have them all labeled on a better picture. This is a better picture than the other one because it gets stuff out of the way. Now that we have that, we can regionally look at a few things. Like, I can zoom to the top, zoom and go to the top here. And say up here, it takes a bend. It was going up and now it goes across. So right here has to bend. So they name it. Once it gets over here, it turns and goes from sideways to down. So they name it. So at the top on both sides where it curves, it's called a flexure. See the spelling? F-L-E-X-U-R-E. But here's where, many times hearing it versus just reading a picture, it's different. Each of those, say it different. This has 2 names. It is called the right colic flexure or it is called the hepatic flexure. But it's not called right colic hepatic flexure. Sometimes people don't listen to a lecture, they read a picture, which, hey, if you run out of time and that's what you're doing, that's what you got to do. But then they memorize right colic hepatic flexure, and they think that that's the name. This thing has two names. Right colic flexure, because it's the right side of the colon bending, or because the liver's there, they call it hepatic. Okay, if the one on the right's named for the liver, the organ on the left would be the spleen, so they call it the splenic flexure or left colic flexure. Okay, so I'll just let you write that in or do that however you want. I know what I'll do. I'm not done marking this. I won't change it, so let me do this. I'll just kind of box it like that. So there's one name boxed. Next thing, there's some more things we see here. Notice how the large intestine looks funky. It's got these little pouches everywhere, these little swellings. Well, those are called, each one is a haustrum. Doesn't matter if it's in the ascending, the transverse, or the descending, or the sigmoid, or even on the cecum. It's called a haustrum. That's the pouch. Wow. Well, that's all I need to show you there, because I zoomed up wrong. So now you can get your picture. I didn't make you wait real long. Oh, you know what I can write? Tell me what word I can write on that yellow stuff. There you go. That is a mesentery. A mesentery. Now we can go lower. Oh, they did label it. I just couldn't see. Cut edge of mesentery. There it was, right there. There. That's where we want it. Next, notice the appendix. Remember, not so much digestive, but maybe, because your bacteria help digestion, right? And bacteria make vitamins too, but that's your normal flora. So have you kind of noticed that this organ looks really weird and it has a ribbon all over it? That ribbon goes everywhere. Let me roll it around a little and let you see that before I come back to it. I'll try to get the highlight in the right spot. Look at how that ribbon goes up here, and there, that means there must be a ribbon on the other side too, and a ribbon under here. And in fact, it's funny, the way that they've drawn this, it makes you think there's two ribbons. There's really three. So if you look at this as a three-dimensional object, in three locations, there would be a ribbon around it. So there's three ribbons running the whole length of the intestine. What in the world could they be? Well, do you remember that all parts of the gut have the same layers? They have mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, and serosa. So funny thing, the stomach had 3 layers of muscle, muscularis externa, it had a special oblique layer. The large intestine, its muscle that should go long, the longitudinal fibers, instead of being all the way around and long, they bundle up into little ribbons. So this is a little ribbon of the longitudinal that was on those haustra that grows right here and forms together, and that's why it's got all those little ridges on it. I don't know how it does that, but it does. So because the muscle's all pulled in like that, it lets this pucker out and form those haustra where the circular muscles contract. And so it's really funny looking. So they name that ribbon because this is A&P. You know how they do things? They're going to name it. The name of the ribbon is tinea coli. And I always want everybody to know, what is it? It's the, sorry, I didn't have whole room for longitudinal. Maybe I should say longitudinal layer of smooth muscle. It's the longitudinal layer of smooth muscle. And it just forms that weird little ribbon. So you may have noticed, even though I didn't say it, we started out naming sphincters and then we stopped because there weren't any more for the longest time. We went all the way from the beginning of the duodenum until this picture without seeing a sphincter other than this little sphincter of Oddi. Here is where the ileum would attach. And right here is its sphincter. Let me get that out of the way so you can see the picture now. Oh, ileocecal valve, muscle, where the ileum and cecum come together. This is a sphincter, but its name does not say sphincter. Its name says valve. They call it the ileocecal valve. Some people argue and say it's not a true sphincter anyway. It's not completely round. It's different. Okay. But either way, we're going to include it with our group of sphincters because it's a compartmentalizer. That's what it does. Here's why. What's the word for this? Feces. We do not want it going that way. No. And if you work in a hospital and you work in a hospital long enough, you will see a patient throw up feces. Because blockages, it backs up so bad it tries to find a way out. And the way out is through the mouth. So, yeah. Okay. Well, that's lovely. Thanks for mentioning that. Next, the sphincters. So the ileocecal valve is there to help prevent that, right? We want it to close. If it was open all the time. Here we have a sphincter. It's a little tight band. In the first picture, it was kind of mislabeled. They were calling that anal canal. That band's not the anal canal. They just mislabeled it. The external anal sphincter, yes, it's around the anus, and yes, it's around the outside of the tube, so they're calling it external. They're choosing to call it external because guess what? There's a internal one right in there too that we don't see. This is a pretty important body area. If this were to just be open all the time, the world would be rather messy and we would not like it very much. We would all be wearing diapers all the time. So the body in its infinite wisdom made one sphincter skeletal and one sphincter smooth. This one on the outside is skeletal muscle. Tell me what that means. We can control it. It is voluntary. We have control. The internal anal sphincter, same as that, is smooth muscle. We don't control that. So here's what this means. A little baby has no choice. Feces gets there, the internal one opens, and it has no control. I mean, throw a little baby a ball. If a baby can't control their muscles and they keep their head upright, how are they going to control a little teeny tiny muscle up inside their body? No way, okay? So, smooth muscle, reflex, involuntary, we can't control it. Aha, as you get older, You know, some little babies crawl early, some babies walk early, some kids run really soon, and some kids are still not potty trained at 4. Every kid develops at a different time period, and we learn to control our muscles differently, all kinds of things. So the skeletal muscle one, as a person grows and learns to control their muscles, they also learn to develop control over that one. So the cool thing is, if you feel like you have to go, you can tighten that sphincter for a little bit, and it creates a change in your nervous system, and it usually stops the other reflex for a while. So you notice if you kind of have to go, you can stop that and then not even think about it, and it goes away. Then it comes back. You shouldn't make a habit of that, because you can reset your nervous system and train yourself to become constipated in reality. Holding it sometimes, no problem. But if you consistently do that, especially bladder also, it can create issues. Okay. All right. Wow. Okay, now we just got a couple of pictures to tie up loose ends, not even testable pictures. Okay. So go ahead and snag that one if you want it. I'm going to get this one. I like how I marked this up better than the other one. Oh, by the way, when you're doing the lectures, I just thought about this. It's not going to be on the lab test. What did we call the food that we swallowed when it went down the esophagus? Bolus? Bolus? What do we call the food here? The waste? Feces, right? What are we going to call it in the middle when it's mixed in the stomach and mixed in the small intestine? Because it's not a bolus, right? There you go. Remember the word. Chyme. C-H-Y-M-E. So C-H-Y-M-E is what we call the bolus as it gets digested in the stomach and the small intestine, as we mix with the juices, and it just becomes this, you've thrown up before, you've seen it. It can look very different at different times, but that's chyme. When you throw up, that's chyme, if it's been digested and mixed. And I know it's spelled chime, but it's pronounced chyme, like a K. Okay, here's a real mesentery that I wanted you to see. This picture's not on the test, but it's a real dissection picture. Here's the liver right here. Here's the spleen. Here's a little part of the stomach going over here. And here, coming off of that greater curvature of the stomach, is a big, massive mesentery that covers a lot of your intestines. Okay? Has its own name, but it's not going to be on the test. But this is a kind of interesting picture to show the organization there. Also, look how big, that's the large intestine across there. And that's the small intestine right there. So obvious why they call them large and small, right? When you see that. It would look even better if they removed all that mesentery and cleaned it up for us, but they didn't. So the publisher said, well, I'll do it. And there he did. Okay. So there you go. This also shows that the gallbladder is hidden up under the liver, and there's another mesentery on that side of the stomach. And it shows how high up that transverse colon goes. Congratulations, you made it to the end. That's it.